Hey guys, Logan here, and today I'm going to be giving you guys a very, very different review. It's not going to be a movie review, it's not going to be a TV review, it's not going to be a video game review, it's not going to be an anime review, or any other entertainment a review like that, or a review for some entertainment stuff like those I mentioned. It's going to be a very different review, and it is music album reviews. This is going to be my first ever music album review I have ever done here on this channel. And the first album that I will review in my first ever music album review is Cry Pretty, done by Carrie Underwood. It has 13 songs in it. It's about 46 minutes long if you listen to the entire album from start to finish, which I did last week, I believe. This album was released last week from today, I believe. September 14th was the release date of this album. And before I give you guys my thoughts and opinions on the album, let me give you my brief history with Carrie Underwood. I've been a fan of Carrie Underwood, a big #1 fan of hers from day one. Ever since she started her music career from American Idol, although I hadn't been a fan of hers at that time she was in American Idol, but when she started, releasing her own music, that was the time that I started listening to her. And not only that, it was also the time that I was started getting into country music, and it became my favorite genre of music, country. And she was the reason why I listen to country music this very day. The guy you're looking at right now has been a huge Carrie Underwood fan since 2005. That was the year I became a huge fan of hers. Now, getting my brief history with Carrie Underwood out of the way, let's talk about her new album that was released last week from today, Cry Pretty. Like I said, I listened to the whole thing, and all I can say is I like the album. It's a pretty good album, but it's not a great album. I don't really love it. It does have some issues, I will say, but overall, it's a pretty good album. No pun intended with the whole pretty word. But let me start off with the positives, and the most obvious positive of them all, for me at least, is Carrie Underwood. She is fantastic as usual. Her singing, her voice, her vocals, and her lyrics are exactly what made her albums, like Cry Pretty, for example, worth listening to. Just the way she sounds like. She really to me, she sounds like the voice of a singing angel from heaven. That's how beautiful she sounds. And some of the songs, I will say, are some of this album's strongest points, strongest hits, I should say. Like, for example, The Champion featuring Ludacris, and the song Cry Pretty. Not the album, the song Cry Pretty. And Kingdom, and Love Wins. Those are, so I got 4 songs off of this new album that I would argue are some of the best songs in the entire album, period. Those are the songs where if they aren't in this album would have been absolutely forgettable, at least for me, because those songs are just that good. From the music standpoint, to the storytelling standpoint, to the message standpoint, and everything else that comes with it. The music, let's talk about the music. It's fantastic, or at least for the most part it is. Especially with the 4 songs that I already mentioned. The Champion, Love Wins, Kingdom, and Cry Pretty, the song Cry Pretty. The music in 4 of those songs is just that amazing. I could listen to 4 of these songs just because of the really great music in 4 of those songs. It's just that good. And that's pretty much all the positives that I have for Cry Pretty, the album. Other than that, Cry Pretty turned out to be a somewhat relatively decent album, for me at least. Because Now, getting into the songs, the rest of the songs on this album, or the rest of the album, I should say, it's pretty okay. It's alright, I would say. Most of the songs in this album, excluding Kingdom, The Champion, Cry Pretty, and Love Wins, excluding 4 of those songs, the rest of the songs were just either slightly above average, or were just alright, like kind of forgettable, to say the least, I would say. Because they didn't really have much else about them besides the messages that Carrie Underwood was putting into. Because if you listen to this album, you will realize how kind of an emotional album it is, in terms of, you know, the messages that Carrie Underwood was trying to put within most of the songs. Besides the messages within most of the songs, the songs really don't, most of them don't have very much about them that are worth listening to, at the very least. The story and the execution to the story within most of the songs weren't really that engaging to me. Even the music, well, I don't know. The music was good, even for most songs that I thought were just okay. But again, the stories and the executions within most of the songs are just not really that invigorating and that much impactful, because the stories and the that were put in most of the songs weren't really that interesting. At least to me, it was. Now, granted, I don't think it's solely on Carrie Underwood. I don't think it's mainly her fault for those things. You know, the stories being that forgettable and uninteresting. It could turn out to be the people who wrote this album with Carrie Underwood, who wrote this album with her, coming up with stories for each song in this album that are pretty fine, and didn't come off as impressive. It could be that. And I might see that as a likely scenario, but other than that, I don't know. Just basically, it's hard to criticize this album because I really love Carrie Underwood. I'm a huge fan of hers, like I already said from the beginning. And I always wanted to love her albums. And the best albums that Carrie Underwood has ever done are 3. Some Hearts, Carnival Ride, and Play On. Those were 3 of her best albums she has ever done. Blown Away, I thought it was fine. I still haven't listened to Storyteller, the album, in its entirety, but I have listened to a few songs, which some of them are really good. But Blown Away, it was pretty good, but it's not great. And I can say the same thing with Cry Pretty, although I would prefer listening Blown Away over this one, because most of the songs in this album weren't really that memorable to me. So all in all, guys, while Cry Pretty is not on par with some of Carrie's best albums, Some Hearts, Carnival Ride, and Play On, like I already mentioned, in terms of the not-so-great stories within most of the not-so-great songs, it's still a relatively decent album, and Carrie Underwood gave all of her efforts in terms of the singing, or the talented and immaculate singing talents that she possesses to this very day. She gave all of that, and I always give props to her for that. Just giving all of her effort and her passion and everything she has to make this album, and she pulls off with everything she does in this album. I'm going to give Cry Pretty a Silver Medal of Honor. So anyway, guys, that is my first ever music album review for Carrie Underwood's new album, Cry Pretty. If you guys enjoyed my review, please click the like button, and if you have already listened to her album, comment below and let me know what you think of it. If you enjoy what you've seen here and you want to see future videos from me, please press up there to subscribe and turn on the notification bell. And I will see you guys in the next video. Have a great week, Battle Squad, and as always, fight the good fight.